Hey everyone, welcome to the Car Dealership Guy Industry Spotlight. I'm your host, Sam Dark, and today I'm joined by Aaron Zeigler, President and CEO of Zeigler Automotive Group. Aaron, welcome. Also joined by Melissa High, VP LoJack, and Detective Josh Vallis to discuss a topic that's top of mind to those of us in the auto industry. Today's episode is brought to you by LoJack. Now, let's get into the episode. So, Aaron, it's interesting. Just thinking back a couple of years ago to 2021, there was a problem that you came to us with as a leadership team with, thinking about 41 stores, 4 Midwestern states that are the Zeigler Auto Group, that demanded attention. Take us back to that time.
Yeah, so in the previous 20 years to that time, I think we had 1 or 2 cars stolen. And all of a sudden, COVID hits, the world kind of changes, and we lose 72 cars. When I say lose, we had 72 cars stolen in 6 months, and we didn't get them back. And that was over $4 million worth of cars. And it became a major, major problem. It got so bad, and the criminals were so brazen because, especially in a state like Illinois, there's no bail, there's no ramifications. If you steal a car, you're back out the same day if you get caught. Yeah. So the criminals don't fear the police. Well, at the same time, the politicians had handcuffed the police. So in Illinois, it's a no pursuit state, so they won't pursue them, and they can't shoot them. So it got so bad. We had one of our Highline stores. We had some keys stolen in the middle of the night. The police come. We have a bunch of employees there. There were 6 police officers there. We had about 20 employees, and the bad guys come back with the keys, and they literally do what a blackjack dealer does, where they clap their hands and show their hands so that they show they don't have a gun, and they literally get in the car and drive away. Now the guy had 5 guns on him from different police, wow. But the criminal knows the police will not shoot him, and he drives away, and he knows that they can't pursue him either. So this is crazy, right? So we're literally sitting here in front of us watching our vehicles be stolen. We had criminals literally walk inside our service department and steal customers' cars right out of service. Now, these are really high-end areas, okay? We're talking the highest end area in the Midwest. So the criminals know no boundaries, and we knew we had one heck of an issue. And literally, if we kept going like that, it would put us out of business. It was a huge, huge threat.
Because there's an impact, right? Not only is the inventory loss, but insurance even right down to it, right? Like
correct. And you know, car dealers have big deductibles because you have to. So you got to pay a deductible, but then your insurance cost goes out of sight, and it literally makes it cost prohibitive to do business. So we knew we had to do something. So for the first time ever, we went out and we found the foremost expert in the world, Carrie-Ann Thomas, who had an unbelievable background from the U.S. military, also ran the largest police force in the United States. And she came in and put in a lot of different processes. One of the pieces of that process that she put in was putting LoJack on every one of our vehicles. And we can see where our cars are. We geofenced our stores. So if a car moves at night, we know it instantly. So is what we figured out is if a car is stolen, and we have minutes, not days, to get these cars back. And we start tracking the car immediately, and we were able to, get these cars back.
So before you go into that, can I just ask one question? So something you do really well, it's interesting. This was a big problem. It was costing money. It was a threat to the business. You go out and you find experts in a field. So I remember Carrie-Ann Thomas was one part of the solution. We also visited another auto group, the Hendrick Auto Group, right? To see what they were doing. Give us your thought process on going out to be curious and look to other businesses for solutions.
Well, this was a new problem that we had never faced before. And I wasn't equipped with the knowledge of how to do this. I can tell you how to sell cars, how to service customers and make them happy. Yeah. I don't know anything about theft. I've never been a thief.
Yeah.
So we had to go out and find people that have had similar issues and then find a way to solve the problem. I never dreamed in a million years we'd have a head of security. It's one of the most important positions in our organization because this isn't a big city problem. Yeah, we had cars stolen out of a big city like Chicago, but also we had trucks stolen out of our smallest market store, which is in Lowell, Michigan. And the criminals are literally shopping online like a customer would, looking for specific cars and targeting specific dealerships. And these criminals have gotten so good that they can actually clone keys. They have machines that will unlock a car and start a car without the keys. And when they know that there's no ramifications out there in some of these states, they just run wild. It's very profitable business for them. And as we started pushing back and GPS in our cars, I kind of joked, but when the criminals get together and they have their 20 group meeting at the end of the month to figure out their best practices, they say, hey, Zeigler's a tough target. You may want to stay away from him. So what we notice is this theft is still a major problem in our industry, but we started getting less and less theft. We still have some, but last year for the entire 12 months, so 6 months, we lose 72 cars. For 12 months last year, we had 2 cars we couldn't get back.
Yeah.
And we have probably 90,000 cars rolling through our dealerships a year.
Yeah.
So we were pretty darn happy with that.
So in that moment, you brought Carrie on board. You went to some other auto groups for their best practices. LoJack came up as a solution. One of the things about LoJack is it required installing a unit in every single vehicle. There was cost to that. You think about the number of units across the Zeigler Auto Group, that's a pretty significant expense. What were your thoughts as you approached that as a solution? I mean,
so it started out, it was a new expense for us, but it was way less expensive than the number of cars that we had stolen.
Yeah.
But then we got the team together and said, hey, how can we turn this into a profit center for the organization?
Yeah.
If LoJack works for us as a business, it's going to work for customers as well. So we started offering the LoJack service in our F&I department, and the take rate was huge because we believe in the product. It works for us. It works for the consumer as well, because the consumers are having the same problems. We were having people having cars stolen right out of their driveways, or people that were carjacked out there. And this prevents it. Now you go, all right, a lot of the cars now have anti-theft devices in them. Yep. And the criminals know exactly where to cut.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you cut the headliner in a certain spot, you cut one wire and it's disconnected. So LoJack's, kind of throws them off their game out there. So if they disconnect the anti-theft system from the car, they don't realize it has LoJack on it.
Yeah. So Melissa, hi, LoJack VP, thanks for being here with us. As Aaron describes the solution to this problem that was theft, talk to us. How does LoJack address that? How does LoJack work as a product?
No, so thank you very much for having me, Sam. So yes, so LoJack being a second layer of protection, right? So our units being installed on all of the inventory helps aid in that the criminals or the thieves, they don't understand, they don't know that it's installed or necessarily where it's installed, right? So what's happening is we're able to give those insights to law enforcement, right? So we have an internal command center that works directly with law enforcement, and that's where we have that integration. And we're heavily focused on the integration with law enforcement, because without that collaboration, we're not able to effectively recover vehicles, right? So what we've done is not only do we offer that second layer of protection, and to Aaron's point, there's a high take rate on LoJack because of that. It's a highly utilized, highly valued solution. These customers are in our app 8 to 12 times a month, which is keeping those customers engaging with the dealer, but also giving them direct line of sight and having that ability to geofence their vehicles and know when their vehicles are entering or exiting that geofence, right? So it's aiding in that second layer of protection for them with a financial benefit should the vehicle be stolen and unrecovered. So when you look at that, we're giving direct line of sight to the dealers that we're partnered with to know where their inventory's at, to have it be a part of the strategy, where are their vehicles at all times, and get those alerts after hours when a vehicle's not in the right place, right? We're able to say, hey, this vehicle's off the lot at this hour, which allows the dealership leadership to say, this is a stolen vehicle, and then report it stolen. And then we are that center source where our team is and our liaisons are working directly with law enforcement to aid them in a safer and more efficient recovery. And that's something where more recently, February of this year, 2024, and even 2 years prior, developing this with, Solera and LoJack, really being able to identify how do we take it to the next level and how do we support law enforcement that has, in many cases, whether they're under-resourced or need the technology to give them that insights.
So it is interesting. You think about it. There's a problem in the industry. You brought a solution, which, by the way, I think it's interesting because when we first learned of LoJack, everybody thought about that bar that used to be in the car. It was the old tech solution. So one of the things that you had to do with us and others, I think, is redefine what LoJack meant. It's a very high tech solution when in the past it was a device that sat on the steering wheel of a vehicle. As we and other groups installed it, one of the big questions we got, Aaron alluded to it, was the manufacturer already has stuff in the car. And so to the detective, I'd ask this question. It's interesting. The manufacturer knows where that car is all the time. If it's stolen, you should just be able to go get it, right? Based on that data or information. Why is there a need for LoJack to be in the middle of that? Why not just go with the solutions that exist from the factory, detective?
So good morning, and thank you for having me on, Sam and Aaron. But being a law enforcement officer, one of the largest departments in the Southeast United States, 23 years as a law enforcement officer, 18 years as an auto theft or auto crimes investigator. Definitely over the years, the theft of a vehicle has evolved. And I could tell you 10, 15 years ago, one of the new things that we came up with was, yes, individuals steal cars. Before they used to steal it with a screwdriver, a pair of scissors. Then it evolved into stealing a vehicle when they developed a key, which was a fob, a more technically advanced system to start a vehicle. These individuals studied it the same way the manufacturers did. So they evolved into stealing vehicles with tablets, stealing vehicles with key programmers to be able to get into the vehicle. The same way they evolved, they started defeating the manufacturers' GPS systems in the cars. So the manufacturers grow their system to be able to prevent the thefts. Though the bad guys realize, like Aaron said, they get into the car, they disconnect or cut a cable for the satellite or deactivate the infotainment system. So they know exactly what to look for. They get one of these vehicles, they study it. So when they go to steal it, they'll defeat the OEM system in it. And usually what they do after they defeat the system, the factory system, they'll park the car for 24 hours. So that's where LoJack comes into play. A secondary tracking system that's not from that manufacturer helps law enforcement recover the cars.
And you talked about that, Aaron, right? We actually had instances of that where it was cut out and we were still able to recover it because we were.
Yeah, a lot of these cars, they cut the headliner. There's a wire up in the headliner and we'll get the cars back because they think that they've disabled it, but then they can't find the LoJack unit because it's inside the engine compartment.
Yeah. So, and then I guess, Detective, the other thing that we've seen as I talked to our head of security is, you can call as a law enforcement official, some of these, I don't want to name things, but, OnStar and some of those other things, unless it's activated by the customer, unless customer's given permission and authorization, it's tough for you to get that, right, Aaron?
Yeah. So when I talked about you have to recover a car in minutes, not days.
Yeah.
So when with LoJack, you just hit the button and it goes right to the police, right? So you're on this thing within minutes. With the manufacturers, you're calling a 1-800 number. You might be talking to somebody in India or Mexico or something like that. Yeah. And there's a lot of hoops that we have to jump through, even on our own inventory, to get through to the manufacturer, to get to the right person that can do that. It takes a lot of time. And it just seemed it was really convoluted and didn't work.
Which is probably right because the manufacturer is bound by privacy, right? When we have LoJack installed, the customer goes through a process on that. Does that help you, Detective Vallis, to have that direct line? I guess what I'm setting up for is you created this thing called the law enforcement app, Melissa. LoJack did. What caused you to think about that as a mode of communication with law enforcement? What was the need for that?
So to exactly what we were just discussing, right? How advanced and sophisticated the bad guys are, right? So with that, we have to advance, right? To continue to mitigate the ability to be able to successfully steal a car. So our mission was, and secondary to that, right, and most important, is law enforcement is out there day in and day out serving our communities, serving us as our partner, and serving our private sector, our dealer partners, right? So how do we develop technology that expedites? Because to Aaron's point earlier, if you're not recovering these vehicles in minutes or there's not awareness,
they're gone.
And that data is not in law enforcement's hands immediately and very quickly, then it's going to lower the probability of being able to recover that car. So when we, said, let's take all this feedback, and our liaisons, our LoJack liaisons that work, on our team, they're all former law enforcement. So they have the insights as well. So we said, okay, what do we need to do? Develop this app where now a vehicle is reported stolen, whether it's a dealer inventory unit or it's a vehicle owner, they quickly report that vehicle stolen. We validate the police report, and then we drop it in the LoJack for Law Enforcement app. That allows law enforcement across the U.S. to see the stolen vehicles, have all the insights on the vehicles, directional, turn-by-turn insights, trip history, being able to tag the vehicle for their safety, right? Because to Aaron's point earlier, they're very brazen. They're not afraid, and they'll go to very high levels and very extremes to steal the vehicle and get it out of the country as fast as possible.
They're experts at what they do, right, Aaron?
Yes.
The other thing that we haven't talked about either is fraudulent vehicles, so identity theft.
Yes.
And we have 41 stores. We average one deal a day that is fraudulent. Every single day we have one deal, every single day that's fraudulent. And we've gotten really good at knocking most of those out. Every once in a while, one will get through. And with AI today, driver's licenses are so good, and you can fake anything you want out there. Yeah. So every once in a while, one will get through. But when that vehicle has LoJack on it, we go
get
pick it up. Right. We had one where A guy did an identity theft deal. We went and picked the vehicle up. It was literally at his house. He had it full of gas. It was all cleaned up. Like he was going out on a date that night. And we would have never got that car back otherwise. So it helps on the fraudulent deals.
What's driving fraud
It's profitable. It's easy,
Yeah.
right? And I think, unfortunately, our government has really gone soft on crime out there nationwide. And the police officers do a phenomenal job, but they've really handcuffed them in some of these states with, when you don't have a deterrent, when you're in a state that has no bail, you might as well just go kill stuff. It's, and these criminals are so good and so sophisticated that if they ran a legit business, they'd be really successful. It's unbelievable how sophisticated some of these gangs are.
It makes
and
me
you
wonder.
think too, to that point real quick, Sam, auto crime is $8 billion, a year it's costing vehicle owners, right? So when you think about it's the impact of what it does to Aaron's point earlier, it could cripple your business, put you out of business if it's not controlled. But also think about a vehicle owner, right? If that's their only source to means of transportation, to get to work, to get their children to everyday life, it impacts insurance premiums. Insurers are impacted because there's higher losses due to auto crime. So there's so many different people impacted, businesses impacted, where that's where we in LoJack, by Solera, are really staying at the forefront of making the investment to continue to improve the technology and have technology used for good.
Detective, is it pretty cool to be able to log into this law enforcement app and just be able to, you can see all the any stolen vehicle across the LoJack empire, you can see it on this app. That's a benefit, or is that a help to you? What does that mean to you and your efforts to recover vehicle?
It definitely is. I know before the law enforcement app was launched, Melissa, we were able to meet with Melissa's team and actually have some input and added some features into the app, which actually made it a little bit more law enforcement friendly, not only for the uniform officer trying to track the stolen vehicle, but also as an auto theft investigator trying to track the vehicle in the future. Just adding, simple features that would alert an officer if the vehicle was taken in a carjacking, making that officer in the future more aware of what he was getting into. The good part of basically LoJack being so law enforcement friendly definitely assisted us in spreading the word, giving another tool for law enforcement to use to track these stolen cars. The only other part I want to add to that is, just like we mentioned earlier about educating the dealers or the consumers of what the new LoJack was, that's the same part that we're doing through law enforcement. There's still a lot of law enforcement officers. They still believe that, we're tracking a vehicle with the 4 antennas and growing from there. So one of my roles, I'm the current vice president for the Southeast chapter of the International Association of Auto Theft Investigators. We do training, and this is what I want to put out there, not only for the dealerships, for the consumers out there. We do training monthly, yearly, educating other law enforcement officers, networking, spreading the word out there, the current trends that are occurring in dealerships to prevent, not only to help law enforcement, but help you guys in the private sector, prevent thefts and recover these vehicles, prevent the consumers from being victimized.
And I think we would say thank you for that. That is, law enforcement plays an incredible role in helping us solve this solution. Aaron?
Yeah, we greatly appreciate what you're doing, Detective, and all law enforcement across the country. It's a joint effort, and if we have tools that make it easier and successful to work together to fight this, it's awesome.
So, Melissa, it's such a simple solution to create this database that police have access to, and it's a technology solution that helps us better deliver to our customers. Before we go into the consumer side of this, why don't other theft companies do this? Why hasn't this been done before? This is new in the industry.
So I think we've, for many years, you think about the name LoJack, right? So all our points earlier, LoJack used to have the equipment installed, radio frequency equipment installed in law enforcement vehicles. So the brand recognition and the integration with law enforcement has been a foundation for years and years and years. So when you look at how LoJack, how we operate today, right? So we were formerly Spirion Company, formerly Kahu. We acquired the name, right? We acquired the business name to LoJack. We did not take on their technology. So we kept our technology, acquired the name because LoJack is such a widely recognized household brand name. It helps dealers, right? It helps dealers have a high take rate with consumers. But then you think about, we really have always had that integration with law enforcement. It's further enhancing it, right? It's not, we've got the technology and we already had that integration point. So why would we not make that investment?
So to you, we say thank you for that. One other interesting thing, another issue that this solves, Aaron, maybe talk a little bit about this. At any given time, we have how many vehicles in inventory here across the Zeigler Auto Group?
About 9 or 10,000.
9 or 10,000 across 41 stores, 4 states, 2,700 employees. Inventory management is a real thing. Like, where the heck are all those vehicles at any given time?
Yeah, it helps salespeople to see exactly where a vehicle is on a lot. So if a customer comes in looking for a vehicle, they're not wandering the lot trying to find it. So it does make our salespeople more efficient. Or if we're looking for a car to wash that car or do something on service, our employees can walk right to that car. So it's great for them as well.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is if you get to the consumer side, so now we start to shift into the consumer piece, the consumer can elect to have coverage with this product. There are a few benefits to them, not only location. We've already kind of talked about that. There's something called geofencing, Melissa. Actually, Detective, talk to us about how geofencing is a benefit to the customer if they're at a hotel or if they're at a place they're unfamiliar with.
Yeah, definitely. Not only on the dealership side, like Aaron said, where your vehicle is, you're protected against thieves, and it's also help for the employee to find that vehicle to be able to show it to a customer. When it turns over to the customer acquires the product. Now they're able to track their vehicle. It definitely has the advantages. The geofencing itself, if you go on vacation and you want to set up your own geofence around the hotel, the valet area, if you valet your vehicle, and the valet thefts are high. So if you're able to park your car at valet and then you see it speeding away, it's either a valet guy going on a joyride, or worst case scenario, it's also the thief stealing your car. So it's very user friendly. It's on the app, so definitely beneficial.
Recently, LoJack and the Zeigler Auto Group joined forces in NASCAR. Zeigler Auto Group sponsors the number 77 NASCAR, Carson Hocevar as a driver, and there was an interesting record broken at Miami's Homestead race, and it has to do with timing. And timing is everything. And I want to bring this in as we get towards the end here today on this show. Aaron, what was the record?
Yeah, so this is really cool. So our pit crew this weekend set the fastest pit time in the history of NASCAR. They changed 4 tires in 8.29 seconds. And each guy's doing 2 tires, plus put some gas in the car as well. So that was really cool to see it. We were there live. To think about all the races in NASCAR and all of the teams, to break the all-time record for NASCAR was really cool. So congrats to the Spire team, and it was great to have LoJack there with us this weekend.
And Aaron, you always talk about how important it is. Tom Izzo talks about it. Know your job, do your job. And the pit crew in NASCAR does such a great job of showing what that means. Bad guys do that too. You talk about that. They have their own best practice group. If our team can break a record on turning tires, we joked going into the race with LoJack, drive it like you stole it. What does it mean to you, Aaron, that you can kind of relay some of that protection to customers so that, if it's stolen, they're protected. If it goes over a certain speed, you can get those speed alerts. Like, the technology does give an additional or a redundant layer of protection to every customer, right?
Yeah, it's another thing that we can do. We have about 800 loaner cars out there, and you assume your customers are treating your cars well, but the reality is that doesn't always happen. So we put speed alerts out there, and all of a sudden, we'll see a customer driving a car over 100 miles an hour, and they won't get a loaner car going forward. Because if you think about the liability to the organization, if they go out and kill somebody or get in a bad accident, that's on us from a liability standpoint. So we have to know, and our customers have to respect they're driving cars in a safe manner out there. So we've had a few customers that no longer get loaner cars based on their driving habits.
So Melissa, as we conclude here, I'll start with you, then Detective, then Aaron. What is LoJack working on? So you came out with this law enforcement app. You continue to kind of evolve this tool. Is there anything big you're working on next? And how do dealers and others who are interested in finding out more about the product reach out to you?
Sure. So yes, we're always looking at, our roadmap and what do we need to offer next? What do we need to add? What features, what functionality to really, again, stay ahead of it, right? Stay ahead of the curve, help law enforcement, help our dealers, help consumers have an even better experience, raising the bar. Right now, we're continuing a lot of development on our roadmap within the LoJack for Law Enforcement app. Now that it's up and running, we've got over 5,000 law enforcement officers utilizing it. And again, we are rapidly working and training with the help of folks like Detective Velez, like Carrie Ann, right, in your organization, amongst many other units, to really spread the word but they've gave some excellent feedback in where we can continue to advance that to give them even more insights as it relates to the investigative purposes and different insights they would need to see in that app. And then looking at other ways to really drive, improve engagement and experience to help, because, LoJack also retains customers with our dealers, right? So it's also
That's big.
it's
Yeah,
an
you've got an
excellent
app.
marketing channel. Right.
You actually have an app where customers can reach out. So how do
Yes.
people reach out to you, Melissa? How do I find out more about the product?
So my direct contact number is 631-903-2572. My email address is mhi@spirion.com, or you can visit LoJack.com and we'll get you scheduled with the right expert.
Thank you, Melissa. We appreciate it. Detective, law enforcement is hugely important. Is there anything we can do as an auto dealer community to help continue to support you in your efforts to not only protect dealerships across the country, but to protect consumers?
Yeah, most importantly, I just put it out there just for the consumer, for the dealerships. Definitely there is a lot of law enforcement that specializes in auto crimes and auto theft cases. And we're continuously training, evolving with the criminals, learning, getting a step ahead, and networking, spreading out the word of the current trends to prevent the thefts, basically making a potential victim aware of what to expect. So just don't hesitate to reach out. If you see something new that comes up, reach out to one of the investigators, reach out to myself. We have a large network throughout the United States. Like my organization is the part that I'm part of. It's international. We have chapters throughout the world. So if something's coming over from Europe, it's definitely going to be spread through my network, and we spread it through law enforcement, through the International Association of Investigators. So we're out there. So don't hesitate to reach out. If you see something new, something that they're coming up with, how to program a key, a video, a device that they're using, or a new trend in the identity theft purchases, definitely reach out, and we're here. We're here to help. So.
Well, and to Aaron Zeigler here in studio, thanks for being here and allowing us to share this LoJack Spotlight. This new partnership with the Car Dealership Guy podcast is pretty cool, and it's neat that you're allowing us to share best practices here every single week. We'll be here. What are you working on? What's the next big thing within the auto group?
Yeah, anything that we can do to help others out in our industry. Everybody always thinks dealers, go head to head. The reality is I love other dealers.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends in the business, and we can learn from each other. And this is an industry-wide problem that we can all attack together. And I think that we've kind of gotten ahead of this one with some things we're doing. So hopefully this is valuable to Car Dealership Guys audience, and they can learn from this and save some money and help prevent auto theft.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you, and see you next week.